My name's Alex. I'm autistic and transgender. I've been with the Trust for just about a year or so at this point, time of recording. My sort of introduction to the Trust wasn't ideal, unfortunately. Though I applied to the Trust knowing that I was on the waiting list for diagnosis of autism, told them this in my application and in the interview, it still seemed a bit of a surprise to them when I exhibited some autistic behaviours on the department. And between application and joining the department, realised that I was transgender, informed the department, but still came into work on my first day to find a door card with my dead name on it, which is kind of the start of a series of like microaggressions and just a lack of understanding in general for both my disability and gender identity. I struggled to kind of maintain what would usually be my biggest strengths and like my biggest assets as a person. Like I usually say that I'm very quick to learn and pick up new things, but my training didn't really have room to support being hands-on. It was all very SOPs and academic and theory, and I didn't even get to look at the job I was supposed to do for like a couple of weeks after starting it. I'm usually very creative and good at like making training resources that help people, but when I started to do that to try and help myself, the materials were taken away from me for approval by seniors and then became part of a training pack, which I was then not credited in helping work on, which was very demoralizing. Due to sort of like the working hours, the working environment being very noisy and unsuitable for my stress and my condition, I ended up taking mental health leave for stress, anxiety and depression. Reasonable adjustments were kind of just denied for many months. Going through occupational health, workplace well-being for probably about 4 or 5 months, and before I went off on stress leave. Everything I suggested was kind of denied and not really given a good reason for it beyond, we'll wait and see when X manager comes back to decide about your hours, or we'll wait until the staffing on the department's better, or simply being told you are hired to do a full-time job and we expect you to do a full-time job, no matter how bad it made me feel. After that, I just sort of withdrew completely because neither my identity nor my disability were really being understood. No matter how many chats I had with managers, how much I tried to explain how I behaved, how much things were stressing me out, the reasonable adjustments that I needed, it all became my problem, not something anyone was really willing to help me with. If it wasn't for like the involvement of staff network groups, the support, just being able to chat to somebody, I probably would have left the Trust within a couple of months of joining. As it happened, I stayed on and ended up on mental health leave. One of the things that was suggested when I was going through occupational health about this, I told them that I couldn't concentrate on reading at the moment, despite that used to be one of my biggest hobbies. And I told them that I didn't find mindfulness, not wellness. I didn't find mindfulness to be particularly effective as a meditation technique. So they recommended that I read a book on mindfulness, which really showed that I was being listened to. That was like my first occupational health. My second one happened when I was off on stress leave, and they listened to me a lot more. They said that I needed reasonable adjustments to be put in place and recommended Autism Plus as the best people to suggest what they be. I'd already suggested a lot of what Autism Plus had suggested, but I wasn't listened to, whereas the charity, the outside people, the neurotypical people, the people without the disability, they were listened to, whereas I, the disabled person with the lived experience, I wasn't listened to. I was made to feel quite small by the whole experience. once once the support came in from Autism Plus, things did improve, and the involvement, like the support from the staff network group, was really good as well, both from the disability group and the Rainbow Staff Network group. But mainly it was when the reasonable adjustments came in, when I had an employment coach come in to help support me, that I think was the biggest help, really. Having my hours reduced, being able to use noise cancelling headphones, being taken off of a kind of sporadic early and late shift pattern, which really disrupted my routine, which a lot of autistic people find. They kind of rely on that sense of stability. Well, I still think all of the strengths that I tried to come to the trust with, I still have. It's just they only really come out on a good day now. The kind of attention to detail, I would usually say I had, the creativity, the positivity. I can be quite sarcastic sometimes. My sense of humour can be quite dry, but I'm never the kind of person that really has a go at anybody or judges anybody. I think I've got that autistic tendency of having too much empathy, to be honest. When a colleague's cat was sick, I was crying because I was thinking about her cat. I think it's mainly compassion for me. That's why I got into healthcare. That's why I'm staying in healthcare despite the rocky start. I care a lot and I want to make a difference. What helps me to kind of be resilient? I think there's certainly an aspect of stubbornness in it. I don't like unfairness. I don't like anyone being treated unfairly or unkindly. Beyond that, I do have like creative outlets, things that I'm really interested in. I write. I used to sing, not so much anymore, mainly just the writing these days, when I have the time and mental energy to put myself into it again. I think in an ideal workplace, it wouldn't have taken a year to get all of the reasonable adjustments in place. I think if someone joins with a protected characteristic, even if it's something that's waiting diagnosis, we should have people in place from like day one to support and encourage that person to not lose the drive that they joined the trust with. I don't think it'd be difficult to contact, say, Adult Neurodevelopment or Rainbow Staff Network Group, just an email or a phone call to ask how to support a new member of staff who identifies as LGBT or has a disability. And beyond that as well, just ask the staff member themselves how best to be supported. I know on day one, I probably didn't have all the answers, but I definitely did after a few months, but I still wasn't quite being listened to at that point. In like the wider world, I think it'd be great if these issues didn't become barriers for people at all. Like all the best places that I've ever worked, people have been really open about race, gender, disability, identity, religion. I think the more open you are about those things, the less they become barriers in the first place.